All right. Well, hello there, everyone. This is Mazske Finance coming to you once again. It is Saturday. I think it's March the 26th because, like Tom, every day is a Saturday for me. And I meant to say, I have a very special guest with me today. I have Mr. Flip, if I say it right, Flip Anything USA, Mr. Tom McKay. So how you doing there, Tom?
Hey, very good. Thanks for having me on, Mark. Yeah, so we're not very familiar with each other, but obviously you got an interest in real estate, right?
All right. I currently own 25 rental properties, and I have some alternative investments in oil drilling and mineral rights acreage. But I know a little bit about you because I can show it to the audience here, whoever might be watching. Let me get this tablet open up again.
Here, I got one right here. My book.
Oh yeah, you got it there, and then I got a copy of it, an ebook.
Yeah.
There you go. So Tom, for those that don't know you, and I've read your books, so I know a little bit about you, and I know you got started in real estate when you're at a young age. But before you tell about how you got started, let me ask this question: did you grow up with rich parents and all kinds of money, or
No.
how did you get started? How did you get started when you're so young?
Yeah. So look, I'm like a lot of kids out there as I started. My parents married too young, had kids, got remarried. Then that's where I came in the second part, divorced. And I pretty much mostly raised by my father. And so, when parents get a divorce and they've already got more kids than they can afford, usually the moms or dads, they end up in trailer parks or apartments and that sort of thing because money's tight. My dad worked in aircraft. I had the best dad in the world. Don't get me wrong. I had a great father. Got a good mother too. My dad's passed. My mother's got dementia. She's actually in a home not too far from here. But yeah, so, and that's one of the reasons why, I have a mentorship. I teach people how to make money. I've already had several millionaires come out of my class, and they're still in the class. In fact, I just finished the class a little while ago. And for those viewers you watch and listen, nobody has anything on you. The main thing in real estate is finding a deal. And it doesn't matter how rich you are. If you don't have a deal, you don't really have anything. You might have some money from other deals or maybe however you got your money. But the main thing is finding a deal. And that's what I teach people how to do, is find deals. But where I started from, believe me, my bedroom was the living room of a single wide trailer. My dad would work in aircraft. Sometimes he'd be unemployed. Sometimes he'd be employed. I lived out in this desert area. It used to be a nice agricultural place. It's now neck and neck with being more crime than Compton, California. And it's a dump. And it was turned into a dump as I was growing up too. But I lived in a trailer park. Every night, like I said, the living room was my bedroom. I would had a sleeping bag tucked in between the sofa and the end of the wall. When it was time to go to bed, I'd pull that out, roll it out, jump in the sleeping bag, go to sleep, wake up. My dad had to take what jobs he could. And sometimes, when the bus would roll up and let me off out of school, he would have already been gone a half hour because he was heading to work. So my dad would get home. I'd make my own dinner. My dad would get home at, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And, I'd wake up. We'd have talk for 15 minutes. He'd go to bed, get back up around, I had to take an hour drive. I lived out in the desert, so it was an hour bus drive. So I had to go get up early. Well, my dad would get up. We'd have breakfast together. I'd head to the bus stop. He'd go back to sleep to make up for the sleep he hasn't had yet. Come home, he'd be gone. And that was the routine. And, for a few years anyways. But so I didn't come from privilege by any means, but I had a great life. I'm just telling you, I had a good life. I didn't lack for anything. I always ate. I had food. And when I was younger, before that, kids would go to camp and that sort of thing. Camp was like, I don't know, 40 to 80 bucks or something. And that was out of the question. It just wasn't even an option for me because we didn't have the money. And we were on welfare. Believe me, I had, the worst clothes, hand-me-downs, free lunch at school or 10-cent lunch, powdered milk and the free government cheese, all that kind of crap that people that have lived that know what that is. And so no, I didn't come from money by means whatsoever. I'm actually probably the most successful person for sure financially that I know in the family for sure. But it all started with, in all honesty, my dad always told me I could do anything. So I was lucky enough to have something that a lot of people don't have, is having somebody that believed in you. And my dad just said, "Hey, you can do anything, son." And but so I went on to school. I was bored as hell in school. I wasn't a good student. I just didn't like it, didn't enjoy it. I quit school. I took the GED, then I quit. And then I found out months later that I passed, which was no surprise. But but then, I had to go to work, went to work for somebody, and, in construction, and got to work for a cabinet shop guy that I worked for. He developed a drug problem, had a divorce, and he ended up losing his company, went bankrupt. Well, I had already bought all the tools that I needed where I could start making cabinets, even though I didn't quite know how to make them. But I started a cabinet shop out of my little, the garage, and, out of a duplex that I shared with a buddy, and started making cabinets. Started to grow the business a little bit. Needed to get it, couldn't work out of a home, and in the process of looking for a place to rent, led to me finding somebody says, "Hey, Tom, how'd you like to buy this?" Now, this was a hungry real estate agent. Now, I had long hair, 19 years old. I really didn't abuse drugs by any means, but I looked like I was stoned because I had terrible allergies. So red-eyed, long hair. And I said, "Yeah, well, I haven't worked long enough, but who's going to give me a loan, And he said, "Well, maybe we can do some owner finance." And so this is at a time when real estate interests were like coming down from 14%. A lot of people don't even have any clue that it used to cost that much to buy a home, 14, 15%. And so we're probably sitting there at about 10% interest level then. And, so I said, "Well, let's try it," and the agent, he just wanted a commission. And so he knew the desperation on the people that were holding the property. And because times were bad, we just had gas crunch where, that you could only get gas on odd days if you had an odd number on your license plate, even days, even number on your license plate. And, so it was a rough time for just the economy. I was oblivious to it because, I lived on peanuts anyways. It didn't matter. But
was this back in the mid 70s or late 70s?
I would say we're now mid 70s, like 70. See, I would have been 17 in 79. So I was 17, and it started actually, I was probably right at 18 now. And so then, like I say, my boss went under, and then I'm talking to this guy, and then I was 19, and so we made an offer. And he said, "They got to have minimum $10,000 down." I was trying to do nothing down. And they got to have $10,000 down. I said, "Well, look," and this is me thinking, I said, "Look, there's graffiti on the back here. The place is getting vandalized." Now, I'm exaggerating, but I said, "Place is getting torn to hell." These all were out-of-state owners, or out of the city owners. And so I said, "I'll take it. We'll do $10,000 down, and they're going to owner finance it at 10% interest." So that was the deal. But I negotiated that I would have access to the property to keep the vandals out. And they're like, "Oh, no problem. Sounds good to us." Well, so I moved in, didn't have to pay rent anymore. I lived in the place. Well, you know the story if you read the beginning of my book. But anyways, so that's my get in this place. And, all of a sudden, and after 6 months, I just basically put $1,500 a month away because I had no bills for my shop, and I didn't have any bills for living because I lived in the place. Now, it was a big downgrade in my living for sure. Not that it was ever great, but I lived in the building that I bought. But I could see a future. I could see, wow, I'm going to make some money. And so at the end of, 6 months come up, we closed the deal, and I went out in front of the place to pull the for sale sign out. And this guy pulls up, he goes, "Hey, how much do they want for that property?" And I go, "Well, actually, I just bought it." He goes, "Well, what did you pay for it?" And I said, "Yeah, I paid 110. He goes, "I'll give you $130,000 right now." And so I was like, wow, I just made 20 grand. It was there if I wanted it. And I had plans to build a cabinet shop. So anyways, but it put it in my head, wow, I could make 20 grand. And the only reason is because I got to leverage 10 grand into buying something that was 110. And the fact that I bought it without any work history, I was unemployed and I was 19. I'd only worked about a year and a half prior to that. So, in a job that it was very eye opening. And so really I got an eye opening experience and an experience period in buying a property at a time that most people wouldn't even think about it. You know what I mean? Then I just was on the hunt, and I started just doing the same thing, looking for properties. And when I got a property that I couldn't get owner financed, I'd have to get a partner. And so I got a partner. And what I didn't like about that was splitting the money. But of course, and I make 15 grand, 20 grand, and we'd split that. So I get 7,500. And, I did this, and then pretty soon I had about 40 grand. And now I was able to buy these places by myself. Okay. And, the small places. And now I've been in business maybe 2 years, and then or maybe a couple of years. And, I found another building that, I still couldn't afford to buy it. It was 170,000. And again, and I talk about it in the book and how I find it, but that one, I'm like, I need money. I don't know my family didn't have money, but this was a great deal. I could see it was worth 220. And so I got a hold of my boss, my previous boss that I worked for. And I said, hey, I got a great deal. This is a steel constructor guy, still really fantastic guy. He's passed away. Died at 60, unfortunately. But with that, he came out, he looked at it, he goes, Tommy, this is an amazing deal. He goes, and I said, well, let's buy it. We'll split the money. I'm a kid. And he says, I don't really want a partner though. And I'm kind of like, what? Where are you going with that? And he's like, how about I give you 20 grand and I just buy it by myself? I'm like, well, that's a fantastic idea, So he gave me 20 grand, and I go, awesome, a new revenue stream, a signing, what a lot of people call wholesaling, but I just call it a signing. That's what I've always done, and not always done, but that's what opened my eyes to it. So after that, I just focused. I started concentrating on land, and then I'd buy land, and there's a lot of opportunities. Anything under $100,000 in my experience that you buy under $100,000, you have a much higher likelihood of doubling and tripling your money, just because there's a lot of people not looking at that class of property, and so it's a little wide open, it's a little clearer. And with land, there's also good opportunities for owner financing. And so, anyways, I just started just buying and selling and buying and selling. And a lot of times, I'd buy a lot, put 10 grand down, for maybe I'd pay cash 10 grand, or maybe I put 5 grand and buy something for 15, but I'd sell it for 25 or 30. And I would have to take some of that in the form of a note. So then I started stacking up notes, $100 a month here, 200 a month here. And that was pretty soon, that was about 10 grand, I think, coming in a month when I was probably 27. You got to remember, this is like in, 1987 or something like that, maybe 89. And so then, we had another big crash, and then people couldn't pay their note. They couldn't pay me what they owed me. And so then I became fully aware of the risks of owner carry, and I love it all. I still love it all, and I still do it all. I carry notes for people I sell property to. If I can get somebody to carry a note, I'll buy it. And there's just all kinds of things. And I'm going to plug my book, of course, because in the book, you'll see that everything I talk about are real deals that I've done. And by the time I was 28, I was a millionaire from real estate, and my cabinet shop, is maybe worth a couple $100,000 because of all the tools that I bought, and it had accumulated. And some of the tools I bought for my real estate. And so I sold the company, and I was like 27, 28 years old, and I was moving. I mean, I was retired basically. I could make a living doing nothing. But of course, what I did is I just doubled down on real estate and just continue to make a bunch of money. And that's what I do. And so anybody who thinks you can't do it, listen, I had a negative grandfather. He did not believe in himself. He used to pack trains with ice. That was his job when he was a kid. He thought, well, people are always going to need fresh food. They're always going to need ice. Well, then refrigeration came along. It just took him right out. And right. So So no, there's just nothing like real estate. It's the greatest vehicle on earth to get rich. And this is why banks are willing to loan you money on real estate for terms of 50 years sometimes, because they know historically real estate goes up in value. Where a car, of course, it depreciates. Almost every bank's not going to loan you money on anything that depreciates unless it's short term. They're going to follow the depreciation. And that's why cars are 5 years and that sort of thing. But really, and I tell people, there's no difference in buying a house and buying a car. The process is simple. You're buying something. It's got to be registered. There's a lien holder. In the form of a trust. A note secured by deed of trust, or your car is going to have a beneficiary on there that you got to pay off to get the title cleared. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So because back in 1987, I was 19 years old when I joined the Navy when I was 87. But in the time since then, I've read your books, I know your story, but I know you still do a lot of flipping. But do you have many like buy and hold rentals now?
Oh yeah, no, I mostly hold. I mostly buy and hold. I mean, I bought these two houses behind me. And people, people say, "Oh no, don't buy right now. Don't buy." Listen, you always have to invest. You should always invest, but you should never be a retail buyer. And that's what people don't understand and don't know. And and there are a lot of tricks and stuff. And I don't overwhelm people with my book. I give them a path to start with. And many people buy the book, they get into my mentorship, and it's like a new level. But it's also the benefit of having somebody that's been there and done that can explain to you what to do, that can walk you through it. If I put everything I knew into a book, it'd be like reading the Bible. It'd be overwhelming. You know what I mean? It would be overwhelming. But this gets you started in the way that I believe is the best way. And I got fantastic testimonials on video, which flipanythingusa.com. Please go there, look at the testimonials, and you'll see. I just had a girl, Tina, a young gal, single mom, and former fitness model trainer. Just did a video on her. It just came out, I think, yesterday. And I mean, she's just jacked. She's on her 5th or 6th deal. She made $70,000, I think, between the first 3 deals. I got another guy, he's a retired carpenter, 47 years old, and first deal he made 200,000 cash, and we just finished up his other one. And I say because he needed me. I had to help him through it, and he made 360,000. So now he's got $560,000 cash coming in a check that he's going to need to reinvest. We haven't closed escrow yet, but it's 100% going to close. And now he's got some options that he didn't have. He's made more in 14 months than he's ever been able to accumulate in his whole lifetime. In fact, I don't know the exact figures, but when he left the union, they either retire you monthly or they give you a chunk of cash. This far exceeds the chunk of cash they gave him for working 20, 30 years. Now he's got, it's like and I just tell people, you do it right. It helps with guidance, and I'm not pushing the mentorship. I tell people no all the time. If I don't think they got it, if I think they have unrealistic goals, if I think they're lazy, if I don't think that they are attentive, you got to want it, and that's why I have such a high success rate between ages, say 30 and really 55. And I have a guy 65. He's made over $1 million now. He just bought 2 buildings, and he's in California. People say, "Oh, California, can't make any money in California." Everything. No, that's bullshit. California's wonderful. It's where I made my first $1 million. But California is also wonderful because it's a very low property tax rate. It's very low. People don't realize that. $1 million home there costs you, maybe $11,000, $12,000 a year in taxes. It costs you in New Jersey or Texas, you're just talking $30,000 a year. It's crazy expensive, So your holding costs are horrific on land outside of California. Holding costs in California, not so bad. So, anyways.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's pretty cool. Because I started off, people who watch my channel know my story. I started off when I was like 20, 21, investing in stocks, and I was doing pretty good. And then when I was 49, I bought my first rental house, and I kept buying. So I learned pretty quick, real estate has more potential than the stock market does. So what I did, I took my stock money, parlayed it into buying real estate, and I got up to 25 rentals in 4 years. And then, and now I'm just, yeah, now I'm just trying to, expand on that. That's why I have my YouTube channel. I'm kind of like you in a way. I'm trying to help share the news to help other people get started, because real estate is really the best way, in my humble opinion, to create wealth. And I know that's what you say. You agree?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's just nothing like it. I mean, the bottom line is, somebody has an affair that's associated with a big company and the stock prices go down. That ain't going to happen in real estate. It's a tangible asset. And so it just, I don't know anybody that's made as much money in stock than I've made in real estate. Nobody. I mean, and even percentage wise. Now you got a golden spoon in your mouth and you got money handed to you, or you know what I mean, or and then maybe that's your game. You can do well, but it just doesn't even come close. The money that you can make with real estate, and it's so safe, and it's not volatile. That's the main thing. It's not volatile. These people that follow this stupid Bitcoin crap, this Bitcoin, I mean, up, down, anything that can rise like that can drop like that. And real estate drops too. Right now, I mean, I'm kind of salivating right now because I don't really expect residential to get hurt too much, but it will. But, in my mentorship today, I've got realtors in my mentorship. I've got loan officers. I got all kinds of people that are fairly professional, been doing it a long time. But they never pursued real estate as aggressively as I have over all these years. So a lot they don't know. And it's wonderful to see people who've been in the business so long that are like impressed, like, God dang, I never knew I could learn so much. But right now, just to give you an example, the guy that was approved for let's just say a $650,000 loan 2 weeks ago, well, now he can only buy $575 because of the change. It's demoted his, and that's good. In my opinion, it's good. I want the market to correct. When I was a younger kid, when the interest rates were 14% to buy a house,
right,
I could get 10% on my money in the bank. If I committed my money, I didn't have any money, but if I committed, you get a T-bill. They call them T-bills, and you get 10%. Well, you're old enough to know. You get 10% on your money off of what they call a T-bill. And, right now, so back then, if you had $2 million saved, you worked your ass off and saved, you'd have $200,000 a year coming in. Well, now, if you have 200 or 2 million, I'm sorry, if you had 2 million, you have 200,000. If you had $2 million today, you're not even going to get $20,000 from the bank, because that's how bad it is. And so people are forced to invest because they can't survive otherwise. And so, it's just, but I can just tell you that, if getting involved in real estate, believe me, 98% of the public doesn't know what the hell's going on. So it's kind of an open playing field. There's not a ton of competition in it. At my level, or maybe your level too, you got to know what the hell you're doing. And it's not that hard. It's a short education. I mean, it's not super short, but you're always going to grow and learn. But you don't have to be that smart to make money. You're going to make money, and, I've made, I've had deals where I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars with, 35 grand, a couple $1 million with $140,000. There's those kinds of home runs that you'll hit. But even if all you do is hit singles making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, as long as you're regularly doing it, you still make a few $100,000 a year, but you will eventually grow into bigger and better deals. And it's just a fantastic way. So.
Right. I agree. This all sounds good, Tom. And I know this video hopefully will get shared by a lot of people, because I know a lot of people may not know who you are, but I know you have a great following already. But let me ask this one final question then. Where do you see yourself going, say, over the next, 10 years or so? Are you just going to keep doing the exact same thing, or are you going to go off in a slightly different direction, or what do you think you'll do?
Listen, I don't even feel like I've even worked a day in my life. I mean, listen, it's not work. People say, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, well, from what? Investing? I mean, shit. I mean, when I'm driving, I see money. I see money everywhere I go. So no, I mean, I enjoy what I do. To be honest, look, I charge a couple grand, and I've charged $3,000. I may be going up on it, but I don't mind sharing. I mean, this is 41 years of experience. I don't mind. It's kind of like if, when you have kids, you kind of get to live the excitement of through their eyes. First roller coaster ride, first time they're in the snow, first time they're on the beach and they see the ocean. It's kind of like that. I get to relive the excitement of people being exhilarated and making money in a way that they never thought possible. And as a father, with 4 kids, it really makes me, I just want my legacy. I want to help as many people become millionaires as possible, or even if it's a couple 100,000, I want to open up their eyes, because that's the kind of legacy, and I'm old now. So when I die, that's the legacy I want, not just the guy that made a shitload of money. I want to be the guy that helped a lot of people make money. And because I know how much joy it brings and relief for a guy to be able to put his kids through college. I write checks for college. I write checks for cars. I write checks for houses. And most people can't do that. I remember talking to, and I lose touch with money. You know what I mean? In other words, the struggles people go through. I remember sitting down, I had some folks over, and I was curious about this lady's car. It was a Honda car. And I said, hey, what's it cost to fill that tank up? And she said, you know what? I wouldn't know. She said, I only get $20 a week for gas, because they're on a budget that I can't relate to. So, it's just, that's life, and I understand it. I've been poor. Like I said, I had family. Believe me, so many times, and I'm sitting in my car right now, but many times I've sat in the car and I'm looking at the hood of a Ford Falcon sitting straight up. And on the other side of that hood is my dad, frustrated, trying to figure out why it's not running, because he couldn't afford a good car. So, I know both sides of that stuff. And, everybody's the same, believe me. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It helps, but you can certainly make a hell of a lot of money than you are making if you're not into real estate. And the longer you wait, the more you're going to regret it if you ever are lucky enough to discover how fantastic it is. You're just going to go, I wish I got in earlier. And that's going to be the biggest regret for anybody that waits too long. So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on the channel. And I got to run. Actually, I got to go pretty quick here. But
All right, sounds good, Tom. What I'll do, in the description, I'll put a link to your YouTube channel, a link to your website, and a link to your book on Amazon. But I really appreciate you.
that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you coming on my channel. Hopefully a lot of people learn from this video, and more people will tune into your videos as well, because I love your YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, and like I said, I appreciate you reaching out to me, and like I said, and sharing the, sharing the knowledge is good. It's good for a lot of people. So good for you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Sounds good. I appreciate this again. So for everyone watching this, we're going to sign out here. So Tom McKay, Flip Anything USA, and Mazske Finance will both be signing out. So we do appreciate this. Y'all take care, and we'll talk.